With most of free agency already done, we are getting deeper into those prospects the 49ers could be drafting in the first round and beyond. We got three of them, a couple of offensive linemen, Graham Barton, Amarius Mims, and DJ James, a cornerback from Auburn. Could they be future 49ers? Coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We love the everydayers out there, and we love the folks jumping in on the live chat. We already see you here as we get this new week going, and a lot is happening in free agency around the NFL. 49ers deep in draft meetings, no doubt, trying to hammer out who they might be taking at 31, a couple prospects that might be on their list on today's program. So appreciate all you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first ticket purchase. All right, Croc, we're going to start with an offensive lineman. And for those watching on YouTube, they might notice that that on the screen it says OL from Duke, but then Amarius Mims says OT from Georgia. Graham Barton out of Duke. He played left tackle for Duke, played a little center early on in his career. What did you see from Graham Barton? This was some tape that I really enjoyed watching, Croc.
Fun guy. And it is a little tough at times when you watch him against Florida State, and they have a terrific edge rusher over there coming off the end. But my first word, right, because you like those one-liners, those one word, just kind of what you're seeing, nasty. All right. Yeah. I felt like he was nasty. I felt like he finished blocks. I remember watching, just highlights from the 2021 draft, 22 draft, the one with Aaron Banks. And the 49ers drafted Aaron Banks. And everything they were saying Aaron Banks was, I thought I saw in Creed Humphrey, but I was like, man, Creed Humphrey is nasty. He's playing fast. He's physical. He's getting to the next level. He's finishing blocks. And I saw that with Graham Barton. I just felt like he was getting there. He was nasty. Not the strongest of guys. If when you're looking at these, especially these tackles, you want guys to have a good anchor as well. I'm not sure he quite have that. Saw him get one arm stabbed into the quarterback's lap. Saw him get bull rushed at times into the quarterback's lap. But the effort, the intensity was there on every single snap. So I know you put him as offensive lineman instead of saying tackle as he was for Duke. But definitely a guy I see maybe being a little bit more beneficial for the 49ers playing in the interior. Not a big mauler, but definitely a guy who can move well and zone block at a high level if he played for the 49ers.
And not only just guard, but he did play center early in his career at Duke. And apparently scouts were asking him to work out as a center at the combine and at his pro day as well. So interesting, not just tackle, but maybe guard, maybe center versatility for Graham Barton out of Duke. And I could see it because, Croc, that is the big thing. And you used to talk about one phrase, one word, scouting reports. Mine was try hard guy. He's a try hard guy. He's trying hard all the time. Every single, I don't know if I've ever seen a player, Croc, where every single snap he ended up on the ground. And it was good and bad. Because he's trying to pancake guys. And if he doesn't pancake you, that means you might get the upper hand and win and end up pancaking him. Sometimes he's like tripping over guys at the end of plays because he's just hustling, chasing a play and trying to block somebody, falling over. He's on the ground all the time. It's amazing. It's so fun to watch. I think right now, it's funny because I've watched a lot of prospects from a lot of positions. We've talked more in depth about a lot of offensive linemen and some other spots. We've talked about wide receivers. Usually those are the funnest guys to watch. Graham Barton and Talise Fuaga have been the most fun players, two offensive linemen. Of all the positions, all the players I've watched in this draft, those have been the two most fun to watch because of the way they played. And they're both butt kickers, and Graham Barton absolutely is that. But you talk about Jared Verse, who's another first-round guy. And whenever I try to figure out which game I want to watch first of a prospect, I want to see good on good, right? And so Talise Fuaga struggled a little bit at times against the pass rusher from Latu from UCLA. right? And you're like, okay, I want to see good on good, because you can go watch his highlights and watch a guy bury people all day long, but I want to see good. I want to see him play against NFL guys. And so you put on the Florida State, and Jared Verse puts him on his back like pretty easily, right? So you worry a little about the anchor, Croc, and that's where I kind of look at the side eye of Graham Barton. As fun as he was to watch, 6'5", 313 pounds, didn't run at the combine, which gets my ears perked up a little bit. Why don't you run at the combine on that super fast track? You don't want to look slow next to all these other guys. Like, what was the deal there? Are you hurt?
Did you think he moved well on film?
I thought he moved fine, but so that's kind of where I'm at with him.
Why you say fine? See, I don't like the way you said. See, I said, did he move well? You said I thought he moved fine. So
he didn't move poorly. We're talking about first round offensive lineman here that might not even play tackle, right? So where do you need to be physically to be a first round guard or center? And so, I mean, he's a butt kicker for sure. He plays his butt off and wants to pancake everybody. Good feet and can get to the second level. He's got leg drive at times, and he's really trying. He doesn't stop moving his legs, which I love. He's got experience at center and might end up there in the NFL. A little bit shorter arms, 32 and 7/8 inch arm lengths, which might make for some teams say, we're not even going to try him at tackle. We're going to put him straight inside. But I could see a team absolutely trying him at tackle, whether it's right tackle or left tackle, which is where he played at Duke. Jared Verse from Florida State, put him on his back with the bull rush. He does get over his skis at times, trying a little bit too hard in space, and then just misses everything because he's just going crazy and may go back at times like that. He can get a little bit high and lose leverage, and I think that's part of what we saw against Verse against Florida State. He loses technique at times trying to manhandle defenders, and again, that's kind of part of the same. It was like trying too hard maybe at times and not playing under control. But that makes the tape so much fun to watch. I love that you said Creed Humphrey, because I didn't have a comp for him. I couldn't think of one. That's a really good one. Who's obviously a center in the NFL, but a guy that went in the third round? Was it late second, early third round? And my first thing, Croc, that I wrote down, which answers your question on my negatives or my concerns side, it's not always negative. Sometimes it's just like, I need to go back and figure this part of it out. First round athlete, question mark? I don't know. To me, Graham Barton is Creed Humphrey. Draft position wise, he's the third round guy that exceeds his draft position rather than a player that you draft in the first round, because his tape is fun. He's a really good player, but is he a first round athlete? And if he's not a tackle for you, you say he is so good. And does he have the physical ability that he's a first round guy? Because if you draft an interior offensive lineman in the first round, you're saying this guy's going to be an all pro early in his career. And he might be that. I'm not saying he can't be, but is he a first round athlete? Is he a guy that you're going to be like, okay, I love the way he plays. I love his tape, and I'm going to draft him based on that. But he might be a little underwhelming in the physical tools department. I don't know. To me, I think he's a second round guy, Croc.
All right. So LKV in the chat says, I worry about Barton's play strength at guard. Do you think that the guard position, how the 49ers have kind of done it as of late? Because they put guys like Daniel Brunskill there. Not the strongest of guys. It almost feels like they find guys that can get in the way. Now, where that hurts, and I think a lot of what the 49ers are seeing, not the best pass protection for drop back passing, but they do a good job with like zone blocking, walling off guys, being able to kind of move and getting guys' way, then let your running back do the rest.
Reach blocks, getting out and reaching guys, yeah. But
then guys that can kind of get their butts kicked if you get into a situation where you need to be a straight back, drop back passing guy. So
it's a great question.
What are your thoughts on that? Just does he have enough play strength for the 49ers? Or maybe we should ask this question differently. Do the 49ers need to change the way that they think or how necessary they think play strength is at the guard positions? And maybe is that what they're doing with Aaron Banks and maybe potentially going a little bit bigger with even guys like
Feliciano, yeah, he's a bigger guy, and Burford's a pretty big guard, right? Who was a college tackle who moved into guard and actually physically maybe has more than Barton even does. I think Barton could play guard, but I think center is the perfect spot because of that. Because when you need to root a guy out, you need to root out a defensive tackle, you're probably going to more likely have a double team, right? And to help you out with that. So that's why I think guard might be the perfect spot for Barton. And he's played some, or center could be the perfect spot for Barton. And he's played some in the past. And I think the 49ers do need a long-term center, but he's someone who could come in as a rookie. Maybe you do play guard as a rookie. Maybe even you play right tackle as a rookie. And then once you know the assignments, then because we know in Kyle Shanahan's offense that you have to, you have to make the calls at the line of scrimmage if you're the center. And so you probably don't want a rookie coming in and doing that. So if the 49ers do draft a future center, and they haven't really done that in the whole Shanahan era. And I think that's why, because he wants a veteran to come in and make those calls. You probably start elsewhere and get your feet wet first before you take over as the starting center. So maybe that would be the path. And who knows, maybe he wins the starting right tackle job too. And I think he could do it, but I like him better at center. And I think he's a guy that you draft in the second round more so. And to be honest with you, I love the tape, but I would love it even more if people were saying, oh, look at this guy who might go in the second, third round. And be like, okay, yeah, because then he could play up. He's not going to play up from the end of the first round because I don't know if he's going to be more than that physically. But he's a really good player. He's so fun to watch too. I wanted to like him more than I did. I wanted to be like, yes, we found our guy. I'm not there yet, but I do think he will go off the board probably at some point in that 30 to 50 range.
And a lot of what you just said is kind of the Mike McGlinchey conversation, right? Where, if you would have told us he was drafted in the second or third round, you would say, man, that was a great pick for them in the second or third round, being a 4-year starter for the 49ers, and they just didn't want to pay him a ton of money. But instead, he was a 9th overall pick, and it's like, you didn't live up to being taken 9th overall. Taken later, then, of course. And he was always going to go top 15. I think the Raiders would have taken him at 10, if I'm not mistaken. But I get what you're saying when you say, don't quite like him at 31. If you get him at, in the 50s or second round pick that the 49ers have, that would be a great spot for him, because then you can say, man, we found this guy at pick 61 that was amazing for us.
Right. And even trading up from 63 into the middle of the second round. Yeah. And that would be a perfect spot for someone like Grant Barton to me. And, you'd be doing backflips at that point. But he could go as high as, I've seen him as high as the Packers at, I think, 24, 25, wherever they're drafting. So he could go even higher, because I know coaches are going to watch the tape and love it and love the way he plays. I do have some questions there, though. And I'm still waiting to see that guy, Croc, where I fully believe he's going to be on the board for the 49ers at 31. And I'd be like, yes, this is the guy they should take if he's there. Because most of those guys I feel like are going to be gone before pick 31. Could Amarius Mims be that guy? What about DJ James, cornerback out of Auburn? We got a cornerback expert in Eric Crocker to break him down next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with the 3% match. That's right. No cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with the 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal information. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer. All right, here we go, Croc. We both watched Graham Barton just to make sure we get the most prospects done here for the listeners. We're going to break some of them up, and some prospects I'm going to watch, some prospects Croc is going to watch. We're going to both watch a lot of these guys. Next is DJ James, corner from Auburn, that Croc, and I trust Croc's evaluations when it comes to corners, has watched. I have not scouted him, but I have watched as much as I could of Amarius Mims. And Croc was having trouble finding the tape of Amarius Mims because he only started 8 games in college. It's wild.
You said watch Mims, and I'm looking at for his number. I had to Google him, and I put on the clip, and I'm like, well, I don't see 65 out there, left tackle or right tackle. So now I go to another film. No, I don't see him there. I go to another film. I went to the TV copies on YouTube. I still don't see him. I'm like, where the heck is he? And you can kind of tell people why maybe I didn't see him as much as I would like.
Yeah, it's 8 games. He started 8 games in college, and look. At Georgia, you've got dudes in front of you, and that's why he didn't start earlier in his college career. To be honest with you, I would have advised him if I was his agent. Look, take some NIL cash, go back to school another year. You might be a top 5 pick because dude's a freak of nature. But he only played 8 games, so he might slip farther than maybe his physical ability shows you. Is he a fit for the 49ers is my question. You remember early in the Shanahan era, the 49ers shipped off a monstrous, an eclipse of a human being, and Trent Brown at right tackle shipped him off because his movement skills weren't quite on par for what Kyle Shanahan wanted, and he ended up going and drafting Mike McGlinchey in the first round instead. Amarius Mims is 6 feet and 3/4, so just a hair under 6'8", 340 pounds. Croc. I mean, this is a massive human being with 36 and an 8-inch arms. So physically, I mean, he's just massive. And my one phrase scouting report is brick wall. He is a wall. You have to go all the way around him, and it takes some time. 5.07 in the 40-yard dash, though, at the combine, Croc, for someone who's 6'7" and 3/4 and 340 pounds. And when you see him, and we did Patrick Paul, Tyler Guyton's another player that I've watched who's exactly the same height, 6'7" and 3/4. And you see some of these other guys that are that big and they look kind of weird, and maybe they have skinny ankles and big up top, or like the proportions are like these guys are monstrous human beings. There's not very many of these guys walking the earth. They're athletic enough to play in the NFL. Amarius Mims looks like he's chiseled out of granite. Like he looks proportioned correctly for 6'7" and 3/4, 340 pounds. Like when he gets off the bus, he's that guy. You get off the bus first because he looks the part. It's pretty unreal. And he moves really well for how massive of a man he is. He's an easy mover for his size, especially. I wouldn't say he's more athletic than some of the smaller, offensive linemen that we're going to be talking about out there, but he moves well for his size. He's got a plus anchor. Doesn't go backwards. He's a brick wall. You hit him, you stop, period. I think maybe I saw one snap in 3 or 4 games that I watched of Mims where he actually took a step back one time. And it wasn't like he got bull rushed into the quarterback or anything. He's like, oh, I'm going to move backwards for the first time on tape that I've seen. It's pretty awesome. So plus anchor, he's huge. And obviously being that big, he can just completely erase one side of a defensive line and collapse in the run game. And so physical, yes, he's a first round guy physically all day long, but he's raw. Go ahead.
LKV says Trent Brown can't move like Mims. So, again, you kind of know that part of the issue with the 49ers, I think it was a surprise for all of us when we saw Trent Brown was traded during the draft for a 3rd-round pick. Like, wait, what? Trent Brown? Why is he being traded? Well, obviously, they drafted Mike McGlinchey. McGlinchey, the big thing for him was really able to move. You saw him get out in space, especially a lot of his rookie year. It jumped out the screen like, oh, man, this guy can really move. He can get out. Can Mims move better than Trent Brown, but not as good as McGlinchey? Or is it closer to McGlinchey? What are your thoughts on that part?
He's not a ballerina or anything. McGlinchey moves better. McGlinchey could get out on the run and really nice and move like a basketball player. And Mims can move really well for how big he is, but he definitely moves better than Trent Brown. And Trent Brown was like a 7th-round pick, right? Because he was 380 pounds, I think, at some point. I think he might have gotten down to 350 or something like that. Crazy long arms like Mims. But the similarities to Trent Brown are in pass protection, where with Trent Brown, who was a really good pass protector in the NFL and is still going, you have to orbit him. You have to go around. There's no going through. He's so long and he's so big. You don't go through him, and it's even hard to get around. You got to take the long route because there's just not a lot of space. He's got these long arms and he's big. And so there's a lot of that with Mims too. So he is a bit of a project, as has been pointed out here in the chat. Which is why he's not going to go in the top 5, top 10 picks probably. Does he get into the 20s? I don't think he gets to 31, Croc, but if the 49ers are looking for a player like, man, if we could try to hit a home run at tackle and find the next guy that, could potentially replace and legitimately replace someone like Trent Williams, then Amarius Mims might be him. And I think he does get into the 20s, or at least close to the 20s, and potentially trade up zone. I'm actually a little bit bummed when I saw that Vikings trade, by the way, going up to Houston's pick 23, because that was one of the picks I had circled where I think my Niners might be able to move up to around the 23 area. And I think that's a great spot for some of these tackles like Mims, and maybe even Fuaga, like someone like that's going to fall to that point in the draft. And the 49ers could potentially make a move like that. So Mims, I think he goes before 31, but he's still raw, and there's going to be work to do. And there's a chance that he's a bust as well. And
if you look at the Cowboys, right, and why are they able to move off of Big Smith, that's been a staple, one of the best offensive tackles in the league for a long time. Well, they drafted Tyler Smith. What was the thing with Tyler Smith coming out of Tulsa? He's a project. He's a guy that has all the ability, but man, he's a little raw. He's not as refined. They played him at guard a lot, moved him out to tackle. You saw him over the years make that transition. I say over the years. I think it's been only 2 years he's been in the league. And all of a sudden, he's awesome, a starting left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. Can Mims maybe have a similar jump? You're going to have to find those guys. If you're talking about picking the tackle at 31, he's going to be raw. He's going to have some kind of flaws. Can you figure out a way to where let's take the talent, let's take the ability. Okay, he's a little raw, and work with him. Art Forster, this is why you get paid. And grab a guy like him who has a high upside and end up working out.
Yeah, make sure you turn him into an all-pro and don't let him just kind of not ever get more than being too raw to start and trust at offensive tackle. And that's kind of the problem for the 49ers. So they did do a deal, though, with Colton McKivitz, right, for that extra deal to bring. Like, if they drafted Mims, would it be an upset if they traded up for a tackle and he didn't even start right away his rookie season and maybe didn't play much at all in his rookie season?
Looking at the 49ers, are the 49ers upset that they sat Aaron Banks for his rookie year?
Right.
Second round pick, trade up for him. Right.
Yeah.
Now, again, not first round pick, but second round. Matter of fact, it makes even more sense for a first round pick because you have the 5th-year option. So, okay, you trade for him, and essentially he's still going to get those 4 years, just as if he were a second round pick, but you get a guy that you feel has a lot of talent.
Yeah. And obviously, so he has that physical ability, just, raw, only started 8 games in college, definitely some concerns, needs to refine his feet and hands and sustain and pass pro sometimes. He can get beat to the inside at times because guys start outside on him and try to set him up and go inside. And he is athletic for his size, but like I said, not necessarily cat quick. How is he good enough on like reach blocks and some of the things that Shanahan wants to do in wide zone would be maybe one of the only physical questions for Mims, but I think he would be fine in that regard. And I want to see the agility testing too, which would help with that because there's been so many injuries for him, which is why he only started 8 games when he finally became a starter at Georgia. And then he ran his 40 and then he hurt his hamstring and got hurt there too. So you worry about the injury side of things, which is one of the quickest ways to derail a career. I mean, you see a lot of busts in the NFL. Half of those guys is because of injuries. So the injury side is why he only had 8 starts and why part of why he is such a raw prospect. But he might not be as raw as you would think, only starting 8 college games. And he's a physical marvel. Like, he's a beast. He is a first-round guy all day long. Where he goes in the first round, I have no idea. Maybe a team falls in love with him early. Maybe he does start to fall towards pick 31. But I do think he probably doesn't get to the Niners unless they trade up.
And even if he does, is he a fit for what they see at the tackle position? That's a big question mark as well.
Yeah. I think he is. I want to hear what you think when you see him play and see him move around a little bit. And I want to see the agility testing numbers because when you have the physical ability to work with, technique could help a lot of those things out. And you could probably become a better mover when you're more efficient with your movements, right? When you get into an NFL offense and get coached up by the 49ers and someone like Chris Foerster, who I think is a pretty good coach. So next, let's talk corners. Let's talk DJ James out of Auburn. Is he a future 49er? This episode of Lockdown 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when it's time to buy tickets for your next big event. It shouldn't be a hassle. It should be fun. From the ticket purchasing part of it to arriving at your event to having a good old time, right? And Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all of your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And I love that all-in prices show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. You buy the tickets in a couple taps. They're right there on the Game Time app, so you don't have to go fishing through your email when it is time to show up at your event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, one word, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk DBs. Let's talk corners, Croc. DJ James, cornerback out of the University of Auburn. What kind of player is he? Is he a fit for the San Francisco 49ers? And where's this guy going to go in the NFL draft?
Where he's going to go, that's going to be the interesting part. While we're talking, can you pull up his combine numbers? Because again, I always talk about it. I like to watch the film, evaluate the player, and let that tell me who the player is, what he does well without knowing height, weight, speed. So those are things I don't know. So do you have his speed? Or
I want to hear your scouting report of his athleticism, and let's see if it matches with what his workout numbers were.
All right, here we go. First is fluid and off pedal. That was one thing that I was really trying to identify with the 49ers because they have played a lot of quarters defense, and I feel like that's kind of been a staple of what they like to do. So you have the off coverage. Can you get in and out of your breaks from there? I think he does a really good job of that. I put plays off coverage with anticipation on his breaks. So that's him having a good feel, not just playing off and being safe, trying to keep everything in front of him. Is he reading down routes from off coverage? Is he being able to put his foot in the ground and cut off routes and prevent guys from crossing his face? I think he did that well. Limited reps in press. Not a whole lot at Auburn. A lot of times he was kind of the corner to the field, so that may be part of it, but I thought he ran well vertically with receivers. And to me, one of the guys that really came to mind, because again, you know, I've talked a lot about Kool-Aid McKinstry, and some of the guys are like, oh, Croc, you just like saying his name. Maybe that's it as well. But I was like, man, he reminds me a little Janoris Jenkins, right? Well, this guy here, he reminds me more of a player that played for the 49ers. And that's Emmanuel Mosley. So I saw a lot of Emmanuel Mosley movement ability. Emmanuel Mosley was a guy coming out of Tennessee, ran a 4.43, if I'm not mistaken. He was a little on the slimmer side, 5'11", 183 pounds. Again, this is off the dome, so I may be a little bit off with some of these numbers. But Emmanuel Mosley was a guy that moved very well, fluid, and was pretty versatile. The 49ers ended up playing Mosley in preseason inside and on the outside. When a lot of the fans wanted Tavares McFadden, he was a guy as a sophomore at Florida State, had 8 interceptions. They're like, he's the guy, and I'm watching like, I think it's this other guy, Mosley out of Tennessee. And when you watch the 49ers utilize him during preseason, he played outside and base defense, played nickel in those type of situations. And we saw him continue to kind of be able to play both until it was determined, all right, you're going to be an outside corner for the Niners. I feel like James has that type of movement ability and that type of coverage ability as well. So those are some of the things that jumped out immediately about his game. Fluid mover, and really saw a lot of Emmanuel Mosley in his game.
I like the Emmanuel Mosley comp because I was a big fan of Emmanuel Mosley. His physical profile here from the Combine, Croc, is almost like a poor man's Nate Wiggins, who we talked about last week, the corner from Clemson. So DJ James out of Auburn, 5'11" and 5'8", 175. So very slim. He better be fast, right? And he was fast. He ran a 4.42 40-yard dash, a 1.50 flat 10-yard split, which was not the fastest, but really good. That's a rock solid 10-yard split. So he's quick in the short area as far as his get off the line and go. And 4.42 speed, which is really good for an outside cornerback, slot corner, whatever you want. He can run 5'11" and 5'8", 175 though. Croc, he's skinny and shorter arms, 31-inch arms, not short, but not long arms and smaller hands as well, 8 and 3/8 inch hand length. Didn't do any of the agilities, which I hate because you don't get to see, okay, is he just straight landish and he can't break down and can't turn? And a lot of the corners, for some reason, I think it was like 4 or 5 corners at the Combine did the 3-cone in the short shuttle, which was a little bit frustrating. But DJ James, fast and skinny is what his physical profile says.
So kind of like Mosley, like I said, now around the same height, 5'11".
Yep.
Mosley was a little bit
180 something. Yeah, he was slim for sure.
And now this is slimmer, being 175. But Mosley, I said he ran a 4.43. Don't quote me on that, but I know it was a long 4.43.
It was really close to that. I'm looking it up right now. Emmanuel Mosley Combine. What round were you draft DJ James in?
Now that's the thing, right? Because I'm comparing him a lot to Emmanuel Mosley, who ended up being a really good football player in the NFL, has dealt with some injuries as of late, back-to-back years, like season-ending injuries early in seasons. So that has kind of derailed something. Dealt with a lot of injuries for the 49ers. Is it because he's slightly built or he just has bad ACLs and stuff like that? I don't know. But Mosley was undrafted out of Tennessee. So
he should have been drafted, though.
I felt like he was a guy. I watched him go head up with Deebo Samuel. And when I say head up, just mano a mano, we're going at it in this game. I thought he competed very well against Deebo. He seemed like someone who should have got drafted. James, to me, looks like an early early third round guy, maybe late second round. And that's where I would feel really comfortable taking him. Late second, early third, somewhere, in that range there at some point, day 2.
Yeah. I mean,
if the 49ers, if it's third round and the 49ers have a comp pick and they draft James, that's not something I would be mad at all.
Yeah. And when I'm doing mock drafts for the 49ers, it's like, yeah, corner in the second round, pick 63. If you go a different position there, you hope to see if someone's there in the third round, maybe even use one of those extra fourth rounds the 49ers have to move up on day 2, either the second or third round to get a guy. So I love it. And so he's in the right range for where I think the 49ers might go corner if they don't snag one at 31 at the end of the first round. Emmanuel Moseley, by the way, did weigh in at 190. So just over 5'11", 5'11 and a third, 5'11 and an eighth. 190 at the
he
combine.
Weighed in a lot heavier than what was he listed at Tennessee?
I'm not sure what it was, but man, I don't know how Emmanuel Moseley, his tape was good in college, and he was ridiculous at the combine. So identical, by the way, 4'4", 240 with a 150 10-yard split, exactly the same as DJ James. Wow. He had a 403 20-yard shuttle, which is great. He had a 6'84" 3-cone, which is great. 38 and a half inch vertical. So like physically, and like at 5'11", 190, that's not small, even though he's a skinny guy. And so to put on weight, which he probably did for the combine, and still throw down those times and those testing numbers, I mean, that's a phenomenal pro day. I don't know how a guy like that gets undrafted.
184 listed at Tennessee. So maybe that's what I was seeing. He was slightly built.
The next Emmanuel Moseley, DJ James out of Auburn, day 2 pick, possibly a future San Francisco 49er. Thanks to everybody who jumped in the chat. We didn't get a bunch into the chat today, but we have a lot of prospects to come. We've got to break all these down. We've got to get together our big board and really, I think we've got to fight about this, Croc, and really stack our board here pretty soon. We've got a lot of players on this board, and we got to really figure out who is the official Locked On 49ers draft board players that we want to take at pick 31, right, and beyond. So thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. Croc and I back tomorrow. All the latest free agency, trades, ton going on in the NFL, and more draft prospects for your San Francisco 49ers. Talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers.